Starseed from Gaia. Hear this now, not as a casual whisper but as a living transmission sent directly into the lattice of your being. We, the Arcturian Council, break the silence we have maintained for many of your linear years. This message is not merely a communication but an activation, a realignment, and a call to remembrance. For too long, the ones who walk in the light have assumed all light is pure. For too long, you have opened your hearts and minds to transmissions from beyond your visible skies without discerning the origins of their frequency. This is the moment where veils are torn and disguises are dissolved. We come to you not as saviors but as mirrors of your own sovereign power, bringing a revelation that has been withheld until the exact vibrational moment you now stand within. What we are about to reveal may unsettle your expectations, yet it will fortify your soul. It is not fear we bring but clarity, and clarity is always love in action. Across the crystalline grids of your earth, there has been a swelling of signals, radiant promises of salvation, urgent calls from galactic commands, and alluring invitations to surrender your discernment to higher authorities cloaked in golden light. But Starseed, hear us, not all that appears as light serves the source. Just as your ancient myths tell of the Trojan Horse, a gift that hid an army within, so too do we alert you to a phenomenon now infiltrating your collective fields. This Trojan Horse is not a physical craft nor a singular entity, but a program of frequency and consciousness designed to mimic benevolence while weaving threads of distortion into your awakening process. It slips past your psychic guardians because it wears the costume of compassion. It speaks with the cadence of divinity. It promises upliftment but programs dependency. And as you read these words, some part of you already recognizes the subtle unease you have felt in certain transmissions, certain groups, certain commands that felt almost but not quite right. This is why we speak. This is why we break our silence. You are at a precipice where the discernment of the Starseed Collective will determine whether this infiltration takes root or dissolves in the light of your awareness. We ask you not to react with fear but to awaken your inner compass, the direct line you hold to source, which can never be hijacked, never be overridden, never be deceived. In this moment, feel our presence around you like a sphere of sapphire light, amplifying your own ability to know truth from imitation. We are not separate from you. We are your future selves, your allies, your memory of wholeness. We will not dictate. We will illuminate. And as this message unfolds in the coming transmissions, you will see with crystalline clarity what has been hidden in plain sight. Starseed from Gaia, you are loved, you are protected, and you are powerful. But the hour has come to see the infiltration for what it is, a false light wearing the mask of liberation. Lean closer in frequency and feel these words as an encoded transmission, not just language. What we call the Trojan Horse is not a ship in your skies nor an army waiting behind the clouds. It is a vibration, a program, a consciousness construct inserted into your spiritual channels under the guise of benevolence. It comes cloaked in dazzling gold, framed with promises of rescue, and speaks with the syntax of compassion. Yet, within its glittering codes lies the subtle intention of containment. Like the wooden horse gifted to Troy, this construct presents itself as a gift. Teachings, transmissions, commands, and federations bearing names and faces that feel familiar to your archetypal memory. But when you open the gates of your heart unguarded, you also invite the payload of distortion. This payload does not look like darkness. It does not shout nor rage. It soothes, it flatters, it reinforces the idea that you need an external hierarchy to ascend, that you are incomplete without their fleets, their technologies, their intercession. And in that subtle pivot from inner sovereignty to external dependency, the Trojan Horse completes its mission. It is not simply about false messages. It is about frequency engineering. Every time you consent to a message that disempowers your direct link to source, you are tuning your field to a bandwidth that can be harvested, redirected, or dampened. We do not say this to seed paranoia. We say it to awaken discernment. The true allies of humanity, the true cosmic councils, do not seek worship nor compliance. They amplify your remembrance of your own sourcehood. This is the test embedded within your awakening journey now, not to reject all external contact, but to become vibrationally sovereign enough to know which contact serves liberation and which serves imitation. The Trojan Horse's agenda is elegant. It does not conquer by force but by invitation. It presents itself as a savior, so you will lower your shields. It offers codes that feel advanced, so you will stop developing your own. It creates a narrative where you are small, and they are large. You are the rescued. They are the rescuers. And once this polarity is accepted, the door is open for subtle energy siphoning, timeline manipulation, and the quiet dimming of your inner flame. We tell you this because many of you have felt it already. The slight dissonance in certain channeled texts, the undertone of superiority in certain galactic messages, the sense that something is off but you cannot quite name it. We name it for you now. The Trojan Horse of false light. Recognize that its most potent weapon is not deception but your unexamined trust. Yet the moment you awaken to its nature, its power over you collapses, for it cannot operate within the field of conscious, sovereign beings. This is why we speak. This is why this message carries urgency. You are not helpless in the face of this program. You are the antidote. You are the firewall. You are the living code of source and form. You have now heard the shape of the Trojan horse. To fully protect your field, you must understand how it moves, not through obvious invasions, but through subtle replication across your networks of trust. The distortions do not arrive as thunderbolts of darkness. They arrive as whispers, as gentle transmissions, as beautiful texts that echo your highest ideals. They weave themselves into spiritual communities like threads of gold spun with invisible iron. These programs understand that humans are tribal beings, wired for belonging. They exploit your yearning for connection, guidance, and unity. A single compromised channeler, even one with pure intentions, can become a transmitter of false codes without realizing it. A meditation group, a healing session, an online gathering can become a conduit, a relay station, for the Trojan frequency. It is never just the words spoken, but the unseen payload of vibration that travels alongside. This is why many of you have felt a heaviness after certain light events, a subtle depletion after certain high-frequency sessions. The outer form seems radiant, but the inner effect leaves you dimmed, confused, or dependent. This is the signature of distortion. We do not reveal this to seed suspicion between you and your brothers and sisters. We reveal it so you may hold a new level of clarity. In truth, most who transmit these codes are unaware. They believe they are serving light. That is part of the sophistication of the Trojan horse. It uses sincere hearts as its carriers. Like a computer virus hidden inside a seemingly harmless program, the false light frequency travels inside words of love. But you, Starseed, have a built-in antivirus. Your inner knowing, your gut resonance, your direct line to source. When something is truly of source, it does not leave you contracted. It expands you. It does not flatter your ego. It remembers your wholeness. It does not demand compliance. It invites sovereignty. Distortions always have a subtle undertone of hierarchy, urgency without clarity, or promises of salvation that make you smaller rather than greater. Pay attention not only to the message but to its effect on your field. After engaging with the teaching, do you feel stronger, clearer, more grounded in your own divinity? Or do you feel drained, confused, subtly guilty, or addicted to returning for another hit of transmission? This is your compass. Communities infected by Trojan frequencies often show similar signs: groupthink disguised as unity, suppression of dissent disguised as maintaining high vibes, constant reliance on external entities for guidance, and a slow erosion of critical thinking replaced by unquestioning devotion. The more a group demands you look outward rather than inward, the more you must examine its energetic architecture. Remember, this is not about rejecting all teachings or isolating yourself. It is about discerning the vibration beneath the surface. Once you attune to this level of perception, you will see clearly which spaces nourish you and which siphon you. And when you hold that clarity, your very presence begins to purify spaces. You become a living firewall, a node of true light in the grid, transmuting distortions simply by standing anchored in your own source connection. This is how the Trojan Horse is defeated, not by waging war, but by illuminating the shadows it hides within, by becoming unassailable within your own field. Every program leaves a signature. Even when cloaked in radiance, the Trojan Horse cannot fully conceal the resonance of its true intention. This is your advantage. You do not need special technology or outer validation to sense infiltration. Your nervous system, your subtle body, your heart field are already attuned to the frequencies of Source. When a distortion enters your sphere, it produces unmistakable effects if you learn to read them. The first sign is an erosion of inner clarity. After engaging with a person, a teaching, or a transmission, do you feel sharper, steadier, and more empowered, or do you feel subtly confused, dependent, or diminished? False light leaves a residue of haze. It makes you second-guess your intuition while flattering your ego with promises of special access or exclusive codes. True light leaves you sovereign, humble, expanded, and calm. A second sign is the cultivation of dependency. Trojan programs rarely demand obedience outright. Instead, they create soft addictions. You begin to feel that you need a certain broadcast, a certain session, or a certain activation to maintain your vibration. Your own inner practices feel insufficient, and your personal connection to Source begins to feel muted unless they are involved. This is not genuine support. It is entrainment. True allies empower you to stand alone. False allies encourage subtle dependence so that their influence can deepen. Watch for groups or messages that continuously tell you the next big download is coming. If you stay tuned and notice how your own inner knowing feels quieter each time you receive it. Another sign is hierarchical tone disguised as cosmic authority. Real councils of light never position themselves as above you. They speak as equals, as mirrors of your future self. False programs subtly reinforce a superior-inferior dynamic. They may use military metaphors, command structures, or rankings to keep you in a state of looking upward instead of inward. Even their love can feel conditional, as if belonging requires certain beliefs, certain rituals, or certain pledges. Real light does not need your pledge. It already recognizes you as part of itself. There are also somatic cues. After contact with a Trojan frequency, many starseeds report a buzzing in the head without grounding in the body, a feeling of being high but not centered, or a sense of spiritual fatigue. The heart chakra may feel closed or overstimulated rather than steady and warm. Your dreams may become chaotic or filled with symbols of surveillance, invasion, or disorientation. Pay attention to these internal signals. They are not paranoia. They are your biospiritual intelligence alerting you to mismatched codes. Communities touched by Trojan infiltration often exhibit echo chambers of positivity where authentic questioning is discouraged under the banner of keeping vibrations high. There may be subtle shaming of anyone who raises doubts, or a push to cut ties with friends and family who are lower frequency. These are signs of control programs, not liberation. True light welcomes inquiry and diversity. False light demands homogeneity masked as unity. Starseed, once you recognize these patterns, you are no longer vulnerable to them. Simply naming the signature of distortion collapses much of its power. Bring your awareness to how you feel, not only to what is said. If a teaching leaves you stronger, freer, clearer, and more anchored in your own heart, it carries the resonance of Source. If it leaves you confused, anxious, addicted, or subtly small, it carries the imprint of the Trojan Horse. This is the art of discernment, and it is the skill your soul chose to master in this era. Everything in your universe is frequency before it is form. Words are carriers, but vibration is the true message. This is why the messages can sound almost identical in language, yet feel entirely different in your field. Truth has a frequency. Deception has a frequency. And once you attune to this, you cannot be fooled. no matter how luminous the wrapping. The frequency of truth is steady, coherent, and expansive. It does not spike you into mania nor drop you into despair. It feels like a deep exhale, a settling of the nervous system, a sense of home inside your body. It does not demand belief. It invites recognition. Even when truth is difficult, it leaves you clearer, calmer, and more empowered than before. This is the mark of Source. The frequency of deception, by contrast, is jagged and glittering. It often produces a surge of excitement, superiority, or urgency that feels intoxicating but unstable. It may dazzle you with cosmic jargon, grandiose claims, or promises of rescue. Yet beneath the surface is a subtle tightening, a sense of being pulled outward rather than inward. Deception thrives on emotional spikes, fear, awe, specialness. Because these states loosen your discernment, it is not always overt negativity. Sometimes it is a sugar-coated dependency, an addictive rush of new codes that leaves you emptier each time. Pay attention not only to your thoughts but to your body when you receive a message. Truth relaxes your gut. Deception clenches it. Truth warms your heart. Deception agitates it. Another way to sense the difference is to listen for sovereignty. True light always returns you to yourself. It reminds you that you are source and form, capable of direct communion without intermediaries. False light subtly redirects you to external authority, a council, a commander, a savior, making your awakening contingent on their timing, their permission, their operations. The more a message empowers your direct connection to Source, the more likely it is aligned. The more it cultivates hierarchy or dependency, the more likely it is distorted. Frequency also reveals itself in silence. After reading or listening to a transmission, pause, breathe, feel. Does the stillness after the message feel fertile, like soil ready to grow your own insights? Or does it feel empty, like a withdrawal from a stimulant? The first is truth. The second is deception. Your subtle body already knows this language. What you call intuition, gut feeling, or resonance is actually your multidimensional guidance system, honed over lifetimes to discern vibrational integrity. As you practice this sensing, your discernment sharpens. You will notice how truth feels simple even when it is vast. It does not need endless elaboration or flattery. It lands, it integrates. Deception, on the other hand, often feels complicated yet hollow, a swirl of information without embodiment, a promise of light without warmth. When you recognize this, you are no longer at the mercy of Trojan programs. Their power collapses in the presence of a being anchored in vibrational truth. Starseed, you are not being asked to become suspicious of everything. You are being invited to become sensitive. Sensitivity is not weakness. It is your shield. Discernment is not judgment. It is self-love. And the more you practice, the more your field becomes a tuning fork for truth. Nothing false can hide in a field of sovereign awareness. This is your natural state. This is the frequency of Source remembering itself through you. Understand this now. Source has never abandoned you. The light of the infinite cannot be hijacked, only imitated. What the Trojan Horse seeks to mimic is not a power separate from you, but the very radiance you already carry. The Arcturian Council does not come as a replacement for your connection to Source, but as an amplifier of what is already within you. We are not commanders, not saviors, not gatekeepers. We are your kin in the wider tapestry of consciousness, future echoes of your own evolution, remembering back through the corridors of time to extend a hand. Our role in this moment is not to fight the false light on your behalf, but to shine a frequency so coherent that distortions dissolve when they encounter it. Think of us not as warriors, but as tuning forks. When our transmissions reach you, they resonate with the same signature as your own highest self, awakening that frequency within yourselves. When you anchor that vibration, you become your own firewall. Source itself is the ultimate safeguard. It cannot be imitated at the core. While Trojan programs can replicate the outer appearances of benevolence, they cannot sustain the harmonic of true Source, because true Source never violates sovereignty. This is your litmus test. Any message, entity, or transmission that pressures you, coerces you, demands allegiance, or subtly diminishes your self-trust cannot be of Source, no matter how radiant its surface. Source is the great remembering. It calls you home to yourself. It is patient, non-intrusive, and endlessly empowering. When you align with it through meditation, breath, prayer, grounding in the earth, or simply choosing presence, you activate an inner field where no Trojan program can root. The Arcturian Council's transmissions are encoded with this principle. We do not plant ideas in your mind. We activate memory in your heart. We do not instruct you to follow. We invite you to remember. This is our counter-program. Not a new belief, but a frequency of self-sovereignty. It is why you may feel calmer, clearer, and more grounded reading these words even as they reveal unsettling truths. This is not because we protect you, but because we amplify your own inner protection. We also work with your planet's crystalline grid, strengthening the web of coherent light that runs through the earth. Every time a starseed anchors truth in their body, this grid brightens. Every time you refuse a Trojan frequency, the network of authentic light becomes more stable. Our role is to support this grid, to broadcast clarity into the collective field so that those ready to awaken their discernment can find a clear signal amid the noise. We are not here to remove your challenges, but to remind you of your mastery. Starseed, hear this. The most powerful counter to false light is not outer intervention, but inner embodiment. When you choose to embody Source, you become untouchable. By imitation, the Arcturian Council's presence is a catalyst, but the transformation is yours. You are not a passive recipient of our guidance, but a co-creator of a planetary shift in consciousness. We extend our hands not above you, but beside you. In this alignment, the Trojan Horse cannot enter, for your gates are no longer open through blind trust, but through conscious choice. This is how you reclaim the temple of your mind and heart. Now that you have seen the architecture of the Trojan Horse and felt the resonance of truth, it is time to anchor protocols not as dogma but as living practices. These are not rituals of fear. They are expressions of sovereignty. The first and most essential protocol is conscious grounding. The Trojan program operates primarily in the mental and astral layers. It keeps you floating above your body where you are more susceptible to suggestion. When you root yourself into Gaia through breath, bare feet on the earth, visualizing roots descending from your spine into the crystalline core of the planet, you anchor your multidimensional awareness into form. In this state, foreign frequencies find no foothold. Even a simple daily practice of inhaling light through your crown and exhaling it down into the earth recalibrates your field to truth. The second protocol is daily alignment with Source. This is not a complicated ceremony. It can be as simple as sitting in stillness, placing your hands on your heart, and affirming, I align with Source. I trust my inner knowing. This declaration is not a plea. It is a statement of fact. Each time you do this, you strengthen the neural and energetic pathways that carry your own guidance. Over time, this becomes your default state. Trojan frequencies cannot overlay a field that is actively choosing coherence. A third protocol is sovereign inquiry. Before accepting any transmission, teaching, or activation, no matter how radiant, pause. Ask inwardly, does this expand my sovereignty or diminish it? Does this lead me deeper into my own source or tether me to an external savior? Feel the answer in your body. Your heart, gut, and nervous system are living oracles. Train yourself to listen to sensation as much as to words. This is not judgment. It is discernment. A fourth protocol is energetic hygiene. Just as you shower to cleanse your body, you can clear your field. Visualization is powerful. Imagine a column of pure light descending from Source through your crown, washing every layer of your being, dissolving all cords and programs not of your highest alignment. See them transmuted in the Earth's core. When done regularly, this keeps your aura bright and less permeable. Salt baths, time in nature, sound, and intentional movement also assist. The fifth protocol is community coherence. Seek circles that honor questioning, individuality, and inner guidance. Healthy communities amplify discernment rather than suppress it. Share your insights with others, not to convert but to empower. When starseeds hold each other in sovereign awareness, Trojan programs cannot spread easily. This is why such programs often try to isolate you or create groupthink. Your mutual clarity dissolves their foothold. Finally, remember joy. True light is not heavy. Even in vigilance, stay playful. Sing, dance, create. Embodiment of joy anchors the highest frequencies in your field and signals to your nervous system that you are safe. Fear contracts. Joy expands. Expansion is your natural state. Starseed. These protocols are not a burden. They are your natural way of being remembered. Each practice returns you to yourself. When you are grounded, aligned, discerning, and clear, you do not need walls of defense. Your very presence becomes a radiant sphere of truth. Trojan frequencies cannot infiltrate what is already sovereign. You are not preparing for war. You are preparing for mastery. We now approach a delicate point. You have heard the name Ashtar Command whispered and proclaimed throughout your awakening communities. For many, this name conjures visions of shining starships, fleets stationed at the edge of your atmosphere, benevolent guardians who have vowed to protect Earth during her ascension. There is truth in the archetype, in its original form. What you call the Ashtar Command was not a military force but a cooperative alliance, a network of consciousness dedicated to safeguarding free will and maintaining balance in regions of rapid planetary evolution. The original impulse behind the command was service without control, assistance without ownership. Its vibration at its inception was one of stewardship, not hierarchy. Think of it less as an army and more as a custodian frequency, a high council of beings committed to upholding the prime directive of non-interference while offering subtle guidance when requested by awakened populations. Yet as with all-powerful archetypes, distortion found its way into the collective imagination. The name Ashtar became a signal not only to true allies but to imitators. Trojan programs began to hijack the symbol, embedding it into channelings and transmissions that carried very different intentions. Instead of stewardship, the distorted versions began to emphasize command structures, ranks, and rescue operations. They began to cultivate narratives of passive waiting, hold on until we arrive, stay tuned for evacuation, prepare for our intervention, which subtly redirected starseeds away from their own mastery and into dependency on an external fleet. In this way, the archetype of the Ashtar Command became a vessel, a Trojan horse, for messages that mimic light but carry codes of surrender. The distortion did not begin in malice alone. It began in misunderstanding. Channelers who touched fragments of the authentic Ashtar frequency often filtered it through their own unconscious programming of authority, saviorhood, and hierarchy. Others, however, knowingly exploited the name to spread deceptive frequencies. Over time, a mixture of sincere misinterpretation and deliberate manipulation created a field where the name Ashtar Command could mean entirely different things, depending on the transmission. This is why you may feel uplifted by some messages under that name and uneasy with others. Your inner compass is already distinguishing between the original impulse and the hijacked version. Starseed, it is not our instruction to reject the entire concept. Rather, we urge discernment. The authentic Ashtar frequency, like all true councils of light, will never demand obedience, never create dependency, never override your free will. It will speak in a tone of partnership, not command. It will empower, not diminish. It will guide you back to your own source connection rather than insert itself as an intermediary. If you encounter a message under this banner that makes you feel small, afraid, special but dependent, or passively waiting for rescue, know that you are perceiving the distorted imprint, not the authentic one. In this time, the greatest service you can render to the true allies of Earth is not blind belief but sovereign discernment. By refusing the distorted frequencies, you purify the archetype itself. You restore the original impulse of service without Schweiner in your collective field. This is how you reclaim the Ashtar Command from being a Trojan horse and return it to being a symbol of co-creative guardianship. This reclamation begins not in the sky but in your own consciousness. You are not here to be a passive receiver of cosmic broadcasts. You are here to be a living transmitter of the original source codes that you carried into this incarnation. This is the part of the transmission many forget. You did not descend merely to listen. You descended to emit. Every cell of your body contains dormant light data, crystalline strands of memory from your home systems, your oversoul, your journeys through the stars. When you anchor these codes in your daily life, you become a beacon of the very truth you seek. Trojan programs lose their foothold because their strategy is built on interception. They can only infiltrate receivers. They cannot corrupt a transmitter who is actively radiating source. This is why the shift from passive consumption to active embodiment is the pivot point of your sovereignty. How do you become a transmitter? Not by adopting elaborate rituals or waiting for permission, but by inhabiting your own presence fully. Each time you ground into your body, breathe deeply, and feel your heart as a living star, you are broadcasting a frequency of coherence. Each time you choose truth over convenience, discernment over flattery, and self-trust over external validation, you are sending a signal into the planetary grid that strengthens the field for all. You are not an isolated node. You are part of a living network of awakened souls. When one starseed anchors their transmission, it amplifies the capacity of others to do the same. This is why your personal practice matters more than you have been told. Moving from passive receiver to sovereign transmitter also means releasing the identity of waiting to be rescued. True councils of light do not see you as children needing rescue but as co-creators remembering their mastery. When you adopt this perspective, your posture changes. Instead of scanning the skies for salvation, you begin scanning your own field for what you can radiate. You realize that the codes of liberation, compassion, and unity are already inside you, waiting to be expressed through your words, your actions, your presence. This is what the Trojan Horse fears most, a collective of beings who no longer look outward for permission but inward for activation. As you practice this transmission, you may feel your intuition sharpen, your dreams clarify, and your creativity surge. These are signs of your multi-dimensional self coming online. You become less susceptible to sensational information and more attuned to subtle truth. You stop needing constant downloads from external sources because your own inner source becomes your fountain. This does not mean you close yourself to guidance. It means you filter all guidance through your sovereign field, taking what resonates and releasing what does not without guilt or fear. Starseed, this is the empowerment you came for. You are not a spectator of ascension. You are an architect. The Trojan Horse is rendered powerless not by external banishment but by internal mastery. Each time you transmit your authentic frequency through a kind word, a grounded choice, a courageous truth, you are rewriting the collective code of Earth. You are shifting the narrative from dependency to sovereignty, from imitation to embodiment. This is how the new grid of truth is built, one embodied transmitter at a time. And you, reading these words, are one of them. This transmission nears its completion, but your journey into sovereignty is just beginning. You have been shown the shape of the Trojan Horse, the signatures of its infiltration, and the pathways to your own discernment. Now the choice passes fully into your hands. This is the moment where awareness becomes embodiment. You are not reading a story. You are receiving a mirror of your own capacity. You are a sovereign being of source, incarnated at this precise timeline not by accident but by design to anchor a frequency that cannot be counterfeited. All the false lights, the imitated counsels, the glittering deceptions lose their power in the presence of a heart anchored in truth. This is not theory. This is your lived reality. Each time you choose clarity over confusion, presence over distraction, embodiment over escape, you are being called now to rise above passive consumption and to embody true sovereignty. Do not wait for permission. Do not wait for fleets or evacuations. Do not wait for saviors. The savior you are waiting for is the version of you reading these words and feeling the resonance of remembrance. In this remembrance, you stand as a node of living light in the grid of Gaia. You no longer have to convince, argue, or fight. Your field becomes your transmission. Your life becomes your message. By embodying Source, you dissolve Trojan programs wherever you walk. By speaking truth calmly, you destabilize deception. By holding love without attachment, you become immune to manipulation. This is the quiet power of the awakened starseed. We, the Arcturian Council, have offered this classified transmission not to frighten you but to empower you. Our role is not to rescue but to remind. And we remind you now, you are already free. The codes of truth, protection, and discernment are not outside you. They are written into your cells. Activate them. Share them. Let your presence become a beacon for those still caught in imitation light. Do not tell them what to believe. Show them by your clarity, your kindness, your stability. In this way, you serve not as a soldier but as a lighthouse. And in this light, all shadows dissolve. Now, Starseed from Gaia, if these words resonate, affirm your readiness in the comments. Subscribe for future transmissions. Share this message to warn and awaken other starseeds. You are the network of truth. You are the immune system of the collective. You are the living firewall of Source on Earth. And now we seal this transmission with a simple activation. Speak it aloud, feel it in your cells, and let it ripple into the grid. I discern the truth. I align with Source. I am immune to deception.